Hey there gamers, welcome back to the Board Game Co channel, and today we have a preview of Earth Siege Arrival. Hey there gamers, it's Professor Meg here, and welcome back to the Board Game Co channel. Today we have a preview of Earth Siege Arrival by Plague Island Games. Now this is a sponsored preview. This is also a prototype copy in front of me, so all rules, components, and things like that are subject to change. And this is also a current crowdfunding campaign, so you can check out the link down below for everything that they have planned. And if you'd like to see exactly how this game plays, there will also be a gameplay on the channel between Alex and I, so you can see exactly how this game will play out, because Earth Siege Arrival is going to be a two-player game that is extremely asymmetric, because one person is going to be playing as the alien invading forces that are trying to infiltrate and take over the world, and one player is going to be the human resistance trying to fight off that oncoming threat. So the players are going to be going head-to-head over the course of 3 turns. Now, I am going to say 3 turns, and that may sound very quick, but think of it as rounds where there are going to be 3 main sections of the game that you're going to play through, and if the aliens are not successful by the end, the humans will have been able to resist them. But the aliens are trying to place out these different dominance tokens, and if they're able to place out enough, they are able to take over the world. Now, one thing to note before we dive in is that some of these tokens are not accurate to the game, so as I said, definitely check out the link below for everything that they have planned, but some of these tokens are not exactly the ones intended for the game, but most of them are. Now, looking at the board, you can see that this is pretty familiar. This is going to be a map of the world. So many of the play areas that you're going to be working within are going to be familiar different continents. So we have Oceania, Antarctica, Africa, the Americas, Europe, and Asia, but we also have the moon as well as orbit, and that's where the aliens are going to be coming from, orbit, and as you can see, their ship up there. So the aliens are going to be spawning out their different units, trying to place them out along the board, and then ultimately place out those dominance tokens, which are going to be these purple discs up here. Meanwhile, the humans, which are going to be these troops over here, are going to be starting to place out their troops throughout the map as well, trying to fight off these different aliens, and they're going to have a little bit of an edge because they are going to have everyone becoming more and more aware of the increasing threat. So there is a threat track, and that's going to increase, which is going to help the human player remove those dominance tokens and try to keep up so that not too many are placed out. Because as you can see up in that bar, at the end of turn 3, if the alien player has placed out at least 10 dominance tokens, they will win the game. But if the alien player is able to place out 12 dominance tokens at any point, they will immediately win the game. So they're able to win a bit faster if they're able to place out all 12 of those tokens, and placing out some of those tokens, such as the 2nd, the 5th, and the 8th one, are also going to have different crisis events triggers. So that's going to be this deck up here, that crisis events are going to happen that are helping out the alien player as they're able to place out more and more of those dominance tokens. Now, as this game is very asymmetrical, I'm going to walk you through what each player is trying to do, starting with the alien player. So there are different actions that you're going to be taking, but they're all going to feed into each other, and some are going to be familiar for both players, such as things like combat. So both players have 2 different decks that they're working with. They have their action deck as well as their combat deck, and you're going to have a hand of 4 cards for each of those decks. So primarily, players are going to be playing their action cards, and the pace of play each turn, which again, think of it more as like a round, is that each player is going to go back and forth playing 1 card for an action. And that's going to be these decks over here. So the majority of the round, players are going to be moving back and forth playing out these action cards. However, they will use their combat cards from their hand when they enter into a combat situation. And one other thing to note before we get started is that both the humans and the aliens have origins. So they have origins that are drawn at the beginning of the game, and that's going to kind of base how you start off the game. It's going to give you starting things, and for the alien player, it's going to affect some things throughout the gameplay. So I will show you the origins that we currently have in play, but just know that that's something variable where that will change from game to game. Now, taking a look here over at the alien player, you can see this is their base card, and aliens are going to be able to place out bases, and those are going to give them special abilities. So there is a card here in the alien action deck where they're going to be able to place out a base where you'll be paying resources to do so. And when you do this, you're going to grab matching tokens to show which base you have selected, and then that will also be placed out in the region where you have that base. So this is going to be something where you can have different buffs. For example, this one changes your action card hand size to 6 instead of 4. Or the one that I placed this on is cloning vats, which is gaining troops, which is going to be how aliens are adding more aliens over to that orbit area. So these bases are going to be one of the things that aliens are trying to do to try to boost their abilities, as well as adding bases into the different areas for combat. So I'll actually leave that there as an example when we do get to combat. But there's also this technology board that you're also able to do as well. So there are some actions that you have inherently over here that you're able to discard an action card to activate them, and one of them is going to be interacting with this alien technology. There are also cards that allow you to do this, but when you do so, you're going to pay the cost and then get the thing. So some of these are going to be unlocking cards for you, some of them are going to be abilities, but this is going to be one of the ways that aliens are improving themselves as well. And there are also tiles over here that you are able to unlock. So once you're able to unlock those are going to be able to be abilities that that player will have access to as well. But as I said, normally on a player's turn, they're going to have 4 cards in their hand, as well as 4 combat cards. So you'll always know what combat cards you have available when you are playing your turn. And your different cards that you're going to have are going to be the actions that you are doing. So a lot of them are going to be either adding troops to orbit, paying alloy to do so, or moving troops around. That once you have some placed out, you'll be moving them around from different regions. Some of these cards are going to allow you to add those dominance tokens into these areas, which is going to be extremely helpful. And then some of them are also going to let you get resources. So as you can see, each of these areas have a pool of resources available, and you're going to be able to take those as well depending on your presence there and the cards that you're playing. So when you're playing these cards as well, you have some that you're going to play for the action. And for example, if I was playing this one, I would have to choose the top or the bottom action. But there are some with this quick ability that do not count toward the actions you've played that turn. So if I wanted to play this for the bottom ability, for example, this one is remove 1 resistance where you have a domination token and any force. So if we had, for example, our force over here, if we had a domination token, we would be able to remove this resistance token as well. So that's something that you're able to do even as a quick action on your turn, and then play another action as well. And finally, to take a look at our alien origin over here, we have friendly visitors. So at the start of the game, you start with alien politics and collaboration technologies. So that means that we would actually already have both of these unlocked on our player board at the beginning of the game, specifically only because of this origin. And then we would draw 3 salvage and give 2 to the human, redraw if you draw dangerous parasite, and then passive ability queen. Your first leader is your queen. Gain +1 strength when she is not fighting. If she is killed, discard all of your action cards. So you can see with that one where your queen is going to be very important, but a bit more powerful as well. And I will go over the power of the different units when we get into a combat situation, but that is very strong for that player. Now, they would draw those salvage tiles and give them to the humans, and that is going to be these tiles over here, which normally can be gained when you are fighting off against the aliens. That's how the humans are going to be gaining them. But these salvage tiles are going to give you different things that you are able to do. For example, for this, you would be able to bank $1 and then trash the salvage. But you are also able to hold on to these, and some things may interact with them that you might be able to sell them at a higher value. So, for example, where this is banking only $1, this player may choose to not trash the salvage for the $1 because they might be able to sell it for something higher later. Now, taking a look over here at the human player board, the humans are going to have their bank available to them because they are going to be paying for these different researches as well. So a research action is going to allow you to pay into these different abilities. And again, these are going to help you augment certain things. For example, the human base defense starts at 2, but you're able to adjust it up to 4 if you paid for that. You're able to draw combat cards, things like that. So you are going to be able to pay into these, but again, just like the alien player, the human player is going to have 4 cards in their hand as well. So they will have 4 of these, as well as 4 of their human combat cards, which we will draw out for them. And they are going to primarily be trying to place out troops along the board and try to resist the aliens. So they are able to remove those dominance tokens, but that is very tricky to do so. And one of those ways is going to be these resistance cards. So they're going to play resistance cards to activate this area over here, which are going to be certain resistance actions based on the current threat level. So they are going to be able to place out more of these tokens, but as the threat level increases, they're going to be able to use this to remove dominance or even dominance from areas that have been overtaken. So that is going to be very important for the human player to do. But again, other things that they're going to be doing is placing out bases, which are going to, again, increase in their strength, as well as trying to summon out their different troops and take out the different aliens. Earth's siege arrival is going to be extremely asymmetric. As you can imagine, the aliens are trying to place out these different dominance tokens, and the human player is trying to stop them from doing that. So they do have conflicting goals, but a major thing that's going to happen is the combat. So now that you understand a bit more about the different actions that players are going to be taking and how they are working through their different decks, I'm going to go over what combat is going to look like. Now, if it were the human's turn and they were to play a card like this, for example, operational maneuvers, they would be able to deploy, move any two forces one region. So they'd be able to move both of these one region over. As you can see everything that is connected and adjacent, and they will move over to here. Something that is very typical is that the humans move to adjacent regions, whereas the aliens can typically move anywhere as they are popping around the board. The aliens do play a bit more defensively, where the humans are obviously trying to take them out. So now that there are enemy forces in this area, a combat will be initiated. So because these are both basic units, you're going to know their combat strength is going to be 2 each. So it's going to be 4 and 4 for each of them. And it's going to take 3 damage to kill any of them. So the damage that they do versus the damage that they take is different. And that is on this chart over here, but this is actually wrong and a little bit different. But it's going to be 2 strength each, and they're going to need 3 to be taken out. Now, if there was a leader here instead, then that would actually be a strength of 5 for the aliens, but and vice versa, if there had been a leader there for the humans instead, that will adjust the strength value there. So that is going to be the current strength, but then players are going to have their hand of 4 combat cards each, which they are going to contribute. So as the human player, we would have been doing that to try to take out the alien. So we may choose to play this, which is Game Over Man. So again, this would be chosen simultaneously and then revealed, but this one is going to add 2 to our combat strength, and if the alien evades, we can play another combat card. So the alien, which is, the other us, is now going to choose what to play, and I do think that they would also choose to avoid the combat. So they are going to play this card here and avoid the combat back to orbit. So both of these will end up going back over to orbit, meaning that the human players are not able to take out the aliens, and they are not able to gain a salvage tile from that. So their combat would be reduced, but because of that, the human is able to play a second card. And the reason you might want to do so is that there are some that are not helpful. This one, after combat, promote any troop to elite. So you may choose to play that card, because now, even though the aliens did retreat back to orbit, you are able to promote this unit to an elite unit now. So you can see where that combat was still worth it for the human, even though they didn't necessarily destroy any humans or any aliens along the way. Now, one thing to note about the combat is that if units had stayed, then you would be doing that damage to take them out. So when that happens, whoever is the loser of the battle is going to have 2 power less, and then after that, any power that's left over you're able to use to take out other units, even if you are the loser. So even if you're the losing player, if you're able to do enough damage, you can still take out perhaps 1 unit along the way when you're taken out. Now again, finally, as a reminder, the game is going to last 3 turns, and those 3 turns are going to be players playing through their different decks, and the end of each of those turns is going to trigger depending on the human player. So the human player is going to be funding the different regions, and I'll go over the system of how that's going to trigger, but basically that player is going to be playing different funding cards, gaining bonuses along the way, but once all of the funding cards have been played, that's going to be the end of that particular turn, and then you'll go on to the second turn or the third turn or the end of the game. So that is going to be the clock that you are working with, and then on top of that you have the alien player trying to push to have those 12 dominance tokens out. So here you can see South America funds must be played if 5 regions are already marked funded. So there are 6 different regions that will fund, Antarctica does not, but you can see these circles here are going to be where you show that the areas are funding. So you are able to place those out. For example, this one is South America. So if we were to play that, we would check the present, which is going to be the presence for the human players here along the board, and then you're going to take dollars and bonus. So you are able to take dollars as well as a bonus if there's one available. If there's a dominance token covering this, you aren't able to take it, but if not, you'd be able to, for example here, draw 1 salvage. Then you can sell your salvage for $2, so that's one way that you would be selling them back to gain some money. Add 1 resource, and then finally place the funded marker. So a resource would be added back to anything that would be emptied if you could add one, and then you would place this funded marker here. If all regions are funded, the turn ends, gain $1, keep 1 card and reshuffle, otherwise play another non-fund card. So the turn that the human player does play this, they're able to play another card after that as well. So these are going to be boosts for them. They're going to be placing these out, trying to trigger the abilities and gain the money, whether they're selling their salvages or if all regions are funded, you're just gaining that final dollar at the end. But overall, this is the way the turns are going to progress. And one last thing that the human player is going to have at their disposal is going to be these delegate tokens. So this is going to be another thing that they're going to be placing out, but the delegate tokens are basically going to mean that a particular region is a bit more aware to the aliens. So you do have your particular threat level, but if a certain region has delegates in that area, that's going to increase the threat level for actions in that area. So it's going to become even more dangerous for the aliens as certain regions start noticing what's happening and becoming more and more aware of them throughout the area. Overall, Earth Siege Arrival is going to be very thematic as well as very asymmetric. You're playing as these 2 different groups. You're the aliens versus the humans, so they behave very, very differently, but overall your pace of play is going to feel familiar because everyone is trying to work within these different regions. You're trying to gain resources, use your player boards for what you're able to upgrade or have available to you, and everyone's going to be going back and forth playing around 1 card per turn. Sometimes you're playing those extras that have the additional ability, but usually you're having that one action where you're trying to place out different things, and the pacing is going to be the alien players trying to spread out, place out these different dominance tokens, and then the human players trying to deal with it, not only trying to shoot out and take out these different aliens, but they're also going to be trying to remove the dominance tokens that are placed out on the board with the threat. So they are going to be resisting as much as possible, and it is truly going to feel like a human resistance against an oncoming alien threat, where you have this time clock, you know that you have the 3 different turns that you have to last through, so there is an end in sight if you're able to fight off the aliens long enough, but the aliens are also able to exert dominance completely and place out those 12 tokens, earning themselves an immediate victory. So both players are really working toward different things. The humans are here for the long game, trying to pace themselves out and last as long as possible, where the aliens are trying to throw as much as they can at the human player along the way. So if you'd like to see exactly how this game plays, as I said, there will be a gameplay on the channel between Alex and I. You can check out the link down below for Game Fun for everything that Plague Island Games has planned. I've been Professor Meg. Thank you all for watching the Board Game Code channel, and I'll see you next time. Bye!